With us this morning is a former Clevelander who's been with us before, more than once. She's a songwriter and a performer and a marvelous singer. I was listening to you with my earphones, so I get the full...
That's the best way.
everything out of it. Welcome, if you will, Nomi Teplow, who many of you also know as Nomi Oster, who lived in Cleveland, and her parents, Joe and Judy Oster, are still here in Cleveland at least half a year, and the other half they go to the Holy Land.
That's right. To
soak up. Tell us about this new CD, because I've been listening to it, and I've been a fan of yours since you started recording, and it's called Like a Rushing Spring.
That's right.
So tell us why and how you put together these songs, and I have some other questions about some of the things that are going on in your life, your kids, your husband,
wow, okay.
your Aliyah. How long ago did you make Aliyah?
18 years.
Wow.
More. Chai plus.
Okay, Chai plus,
yeah.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
God.
So tell us about this CD. This is your third CD.
This is the third, yes. The first CD is called Kumi Ori, and it's a solo CD. The second is, I'll do it in English, My Brothers I Seek, which is a choral CD.
Right.
Where I sing one song at the end backed by the choir. It's a high school girls choir that I conduct, award-winning. And this CD is another solo CD, which has been cooking for a very long time. And on and off. It's quite a collection of songs.
Well, one of the songs you put out a couple of years ago, I recall.
Which one are you
Da?
referring to? No, Da, actually, I put out during the Lebanon War.
Oh, it's 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. It was available on the internet.
Oh, my goodness.
And we played it many times.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, oh yeah. But when you put together, when you do one CD,
yeah,
and that takes out, that all your strength because it's the first one and you want to make sure it's just right.
Yeah.
And then the second one's a choral CD, so once it's recorded, you can't call everybody back and say, okay, we got to do this part again, we got to move this again.
Right.
Then the third one, does it get easier, or are you more anxious about the
I think
production?
In many ways it gets easier because I can only speak for myself. I feel that I know what I'm doing at this point. Obviously, I'm constantly learning and constantly testing myself and trying to improve. And I think there are major improvements in the CD as opposed to the early works. But there are several things that improve. One, you're comfortable. You know what you're doing. Two, the things that I might have been hyper about before. I'm a terrible perfectionist. And if you want to be an artist, and if you want to have an emotional appeal as well, you can't be too much of a perfectionist. There has to be that rawness, that roughness there as well. And I would say in this CD, I was far more able to find that balance than during the recording of the first CD. At that time, I was also an opera singer. And now I'm very far removed from that. That also comes into play.
Yes and no. I'm going to go back.
Okay. I'm going to be in trouble now.
No, not at all. But it's interesting because when I first started out in this business, I would do at the old radio station, my job was to do like the public service and commercials. It would take me hours to do a minute commercial because I didn't like that.
Exactly.
And even in the other business that we have, when I record for on hold telephone things, the rhythm is off. Because when you do a commercial or you do reading, there's a rhythm. Same as when you're singing. It's
I've actually done that.
And if you lose the beat, you hear it, and the audience later on will hear it.
Mm-hmm.
They might not know exactly what happened. But when you're doing live radio, you don't have that luxury of, you made a mistake, you have to go back.
You go with the flow.
I mean, if you make a mistake in pronunciation of something, that's a whole different thing. You say,
right.
okay, you can mask it and all. But when you said, you're far removed from opera, I was going to bring this up, not the opera part, but that's fine. You sort of led me into it.
Okay.
You are a trained singer.
Yes.
And there's so many people out there today. You don't get American Idol, I don't think, in Israel. You have Israel
Actually,
Idol.
I haven't seen it lately, but I am a big fan of American Idol. I watched it for several years, a couple of years back.
You can tell who has training and who doesn't have training with these people. And I'm talking about when they're finally on the show. I'm not talking about the tryouts.
Well, they're also getting very good training while they're there.
Right, but I'm talking about the raw material people.
Sure.
And in listening to this, especially one particular song,
I bet you I know which one. Yeah, the prayer.
I hear, all right, you don't emulate Celine Dion, and we'll explain that. But I hear, and you use the equipment well. I mean, years ago, you came into a studio. Yusla Rosenblatt, he came into a studio, he recorded, what you got is what you got. That's it.
Right.
There's no echo, there's no this, there's no that, there's no bass, there's no treble. It was shouting into a megaphone and farting. That was it. Here, you have different sound techniques that you can do. You can, some of the best recording artists, Dudu Fisher, I mean, I listen to his recordings. Of course he can hold a note longer than I can. All you have to do is take a switch and you just move it up a little bit. I must
respond to this. I would say that obviously in the studio today there are all kinds of tricks that can be done.
Of course.
I don't like to do them. For sure there are effects put on this. When you're sitting at the board and you're mixing your music, obviously every instrument, every track has its balance and its effects. However, when I do a vocal recording, I want to know that it's a good piece of work without all of that. Because when you come to a mix, you want a good product.
Right. No, I understand.
And so what I'm saying is there's so much, there's no end to the work. And I just like to say, all right, I'm coming to the mix with a track that's really good. And I work that out. I like to work it out without the tricks. And I guess that comes into, the fact that I'm a trained singer comes into play.
Right, that's it.
I like to have the work done. Now, I'll relate that to what I said before. So the perfectionist in me used to say, oh, this just doesn't sound, technically I did this, it's not perfect, it's not, my voice isn't. And what I've learned to do over the years is, first of all, to understand that if you want to connect to your soul in singing, forget the technique, it's all there, it's all in my head. Just connect and sing. And the imperfection actually adds character and adds something real to the singing. That will touch the listener more than the sterile perfection.
Right. Now,